What's going on, guys? Give me a second to let the laptop catch up as usual and figure out why this thing won't stay in my ear anymore. So, good to see you. Late as hell at night. Can't sleep. I thought maybe I would jump on and see if, I don't get as many views as I would like. And I thought, you know what? Joe Rogan has like millions of subs. So maybe I should just smoke. Well, I mean, I don't know what this is. It's just paper, I guess, but I should smoke when I do my streams, and maybe I'll catch 100 million subscribers. Um, and really, also I've been thinking a lot about how we have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike abilities, and how that is a very simple way to understand the fucking calamitous circumstances that we're in. I'm assuming you guys have audio because I can't hear anything, which is a bit weird. Maybe. Is there audio? Can you guys hear me? Can somebody say something in the comments? Because all of my gear has been, if you notice that my new gear, I'm not using any of it. We'll get to that because, man, it's like everything I touch, I'm expecting it to just explode at the moment. You know what I mean? To literally just blow the fuck up. Paleolithic emotions. Medieval institutions. Godlike abilities. It's just a disaster waiting to happen every single day. And it's not getting any easier. They just locked us all in this town in Vilcabamba. Okay, we are all trapped here, which is not good. Once again, they've managed to snuff our businesses. We were only hoping to be here for a short time and make a little bit of money and keep going. But now they have decided that you can't come in or out of the town unless you have vaccine passports, which may not be a problem for us. I wouldn't say anything either way about that, but that means that no one can come here. So the town is empty, the streets are empty. Our rape is normally it's gone every week. Yeah, safe from COVID. And it's been a while, so excuse me for a second while I gag on my shit. So we we should also talk about the fact that I can't remember her name at the moment, but maybe I'll put it in the description. There's a woman from the European Parliament. I had to look it up to see who they are, but I guess it's the only group of elected UK officials. I guess I'm not really sure exactly what the details were, but she says never in the history of the world has there been a political elite that had the interests of the common person genuinely at heart. This woman is a member of the political elite, and she is saying this like now, and it was really encouraging to me because a lot of people, I feel like I'm trying to blow a bugle call and sound the alarms, people. The dire reviel. How do you say that word in French? It's the bugle thing that they blow when they're going to go fight. Um, I'm terrible with French, so I'm not going to butcher it, but you guys know what I mean. The bugle call, the military charge thing, right? I mean, but people think that you're paranoid or that you're uh, just too cynical or something, and it's not a matter of like. Can you imagine if we were out in the Stone Age and there were fucking saber-toothed tigers and God only knows what else. I mean, a woolly mammoth would fuck you up, right? Like that'd be ugly as hell. And everybody's just like running around paying no attention, and you're like, hey, you guys, there there are saber-toothed lions and woolly mammoths and shit out here. You guys should be careful. And they're like, oh, stop being negative. You know what I mean? Like the people from the current era would have no hope. Santa Muerte. Oh yeah, yeah. There's always something with some sort of like evil association behind me, I guess. But the thing is, it's not that. I'm assuming you're joking. I'm sure you know that that's Annie from the Grateful Dead song. It's actually one of the most morbid songs ever written, probably. It's called It Must Have Been the Roses. And I can't be sure about this because Robert Hunter would write things and he would never explain. It was against the rules. Except he actually, I guess somebody said that he explained Franklin's Tower, and I haven't read it yet. But I really should. I'm sure it's really interesting. But I'm talking about the Grateful Dead lyricist for Jerry Garcia, by the way, in case you're not hip to that. I think he died like 3 years ago. But anyways, the song that this character is associated with, it sounds like this guy murdered his partner, and they live out by the ocean, and he's like sitting in their cabin or whatever on the beach, watching the ships roll in from the sea, and the crimson is fading on the ribbons in her hair. And they may have just been red ribbons, but you get the idea that it's like blood stains. And he says something about how no one comes around anymore, and you just get the feeling that the song is about this guy that's like murdered his wife and is just living in this cabin alone with her. And so I think that's Annie, the skeleton with the roses in her hair. In fact, I'm pretty sure Deadheads do call that that lady Annie, because I'm probably not the only one that's figured out this crazy morbid story. And we're kind of living in a crazy morbid story, man. Some of the things that I've seen in the last like week or so um, on the news. I mean, there's some encouraging, not news. What am I saying? In social media, from politicians and just various new levels of insanity. For example, Democrats were recently polled, uh, and the results of this poll are one of the most horrifying things that I have ever encountered in my entire life. And I've seen some shit, man. I lived in D.C. When it was the murder capital of the world. You know what I mean? I've seen some shit, and and a lot of other stuff and crap and junk too. Um, but yeah, this poll, the results were one of the most horrifying things I've ever seen. They asked them if they would be in favor of concentration camps for the unvaccinated, and 59% of Democrats said that they were in favor of that. Um, I don't know why the poll didn't ask Republicans too, but I'm sure the numbers would have been lower. Uh, and then 29% said they were in favor of taking the children away from unvaccinated people. And some other crazy percentage in the middle, 37 or something, um, favored permanent home arrest for the unvaccinated. Um, I don't really think I need to start drawing parallels for you because you can probably connect those dots on your own. But that's a bit much. And I saw video proof as well, totally unrelated. There were and these people didn't specify political party affiliation, if any. But this kid was actually walking up to random people on the street and saying, "Hey, like, would you support this? Would you support this?" All the same stuff I just listed. And even a girl that was like, "Well, I'm actually neutral on the issue. About half my family thinks it should be mandated, the other half doesn't." But if locking people up in detention camps is going to get society moving forward again, this girl actually said this, and you could tell she was like really thinking about it. Um, Seemed pretty nice and like average kind of normal girl, talking about how if it'll get our society moving along as normal, then I guess I would support those things. And I don't know if if you guys have thought about this stuff, but if you really actually start looking at the COVID numbers and stuff, um, it's not that scary. This might be a news flash. Not only that, but Rogan, not only Rogan, the other UFC guy, what's his name, the boss man, that owns the whole shit, um, Dana White, I think. He was talking about how he had COVID too, and it wasn't ivermectin, but there's another thing that is also super effective, I guess. And he really strikes me as like a really down to earth kind of average Joe type of personality. Not really somebody that would readily buy into conspiracy theories, which, by the way, a year ago Joe Rogan wasn't really. I kind of watched that happen where first DMT bugged his eyes out and opened his head up. So he's like, holy fuck, what's going on in this universe? And then he started hearing all these crazy things from people that he's having on his show. And one thing that's really good about Rogan is that he doesn't discriminate much. Like he'll have Ben Shapiro on and Peterson, and then people that are just completely out there. He really goes all over the place. As long as people are like reasonable and seem well intended, he'll have them on if they're interesting, uh, and it's great because I've seen conversations between like pretty hardcore conservative people and Joe Rogan that went surprisingly like you would hope that they would, which wouldn't have happened even I think 20 years ago. Certainly not in the 90s, like mid 90s. Conservatives wouldn't have been talking to Rogan about DMT is maybe okay, and these I mean when I was a kid, they would have been like calling the cops, like 99% of them, it seemed like. So, I mean, certain things are definitely changing for the better. But the point is that, Rogan has just kind of recently started to say, like seriously, something is like way fucked up and it might be too late. That's what I actually saw the title of one of his last podcasts is just like, it's too late. And, I almost don't want to come on here and say that I feel that way too, because I want more people to watch my channel and not less. But and the people want you to tell them things they want to hear. That's a big thing with people. They pay people a lot of money to tell them what they want to hear. It's lots of big industries. People's jobs depend on that kind of bullshit. But as Oscar Wilde said, if you're going to tell people the truth, you had better make them laugh or else they'll kill you. I think that, and that probably helps Rogan stay alive. Although he's been canceled a lot, which is sort of like social media murder, right? That's, but Rogan can handle that a lot more than I can, I mean, there's not a lot of fat to cut here, people. So, point being, I think Dana White was much less inclined to alternative theories and talking to machine elves and all this kind of shit. So I think when he starts saying like something seriously fucking weird here, these treatments work, and he said that when Rogan got the medication, the ivermectin, which, by the way, in case you're not aware, is not just a horse dewormer. It won a fucking medical Nobel Prize, Nobel Prize in medicine. It's an antiviral. It's prescribed to humans for that purpose. But I'm sure you know about CNN actually lying about this. Rogan getting. They not only did they say that it didn't actually, they made fun of Rogan, but they also lied. I can't remember specifically what it was, but they straight up lied. And to the extent that one of their anchors came on Rogan's show, and the dude admitted that they lied. The guy from CNN just point blank was like, "Okay, yeah, I mean they totally lied." It's like, dude, you guys are the media. What do you mean you just lied? What the fuck are you talking about? These are people's lives. This is an issue that could save lives. And no matter what anyone tells you about COVID, if you look at the hard numbers, I mean, 290,000 adverse reactions to the vaccine and 21,000 deaths are the numbers that I saw today. if there are alternatives that are effective, like ivermectin and this other, whatever Dana White did, he was like, yeah, that fucking worked like a charm. And he said that Rogan told him about this stuff, but by the time he needed it, the doctors were all like, oh, no, 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 because big crackdown from Babylon. He's like, you can't get it now, you know? And he's like, people are saying like, oh yeah, you're rich as fuck. You can, and he's like, no, you don't understand. Like, they won't even talk about it. And, you know, it's not just that. The one of the scientists, the head scientist that worked on the vaccine, has said some things that are pretty questionable. I don't remember the last time I got 2 injections for diphtheria or smallpox and still got that twice or whatever. You know what I mean? Well, what's up? It's hard to believe that people are really still believing it. That like this woman from the parliament, okay, I was gonna tonight if I had my OBS and my camera working. Everything just failed today. Somebody's coming to try to help me tomorrow. It's so frustrating trying to upgrade all this stuff. I was super stoked, man, and like OBS is crashing. Our computers got drivers that don't work with shit. Like mic's distorting. OBS is configuring itself by itself. Like it's just been one of the most aggravating 36 hours of my entire life trying to upgrade this to a professional level stream. That's why I decided instead tonight I'll just fucking get high and throw some crap together and talk to people at 1:15 in the morning. Because what the fuck? I mean, and I did make this sound like I was going to be really inspiring. Instead, I'm just kind of like in ghetto mode, ranting about the lunacy of it all. But it is really discouraging. Um, a lot of the conversations that I'll have with people on Facebook and other social media, something's crackling. Oh yeah, it's probably because I have this in my hands and I'm just like playing with it. It's my mic. What was I saying though? Okay, so yeah, conversations with people on social media where they'll say things to me like, "Oh, quit your bitching. You're part of the problem. If you're not going to try to do anything about it, why are you even talking about it?" And it's like, well, I'm talking about it because I'm trying to do something about it. I have a whole YouTube channel where I spend like half of my fucking life trying to do something about it. What are you talking about? You know, this was a comment on YouTube. People will actually get angry with you for trying to cause change. I guess comfort is the main thing for people. It's not like freedom and the pursuit of happiness or right and wrong, the pursuit of righteousness or any of these things. It seems to be mostly just that people just want to be comfortable. And if they've achieved that, anything that they perceive to be a potential threat to it is not good, no matter what logic dictates, right? I mean, I think one of the things that you really learn from psychedelics and from contemplation and whatever it is that's causing your expanded consciousness, right? One of the things you learn that is kind of that the reason that like sages always have that sort of bittersweet smile kind of deal. There are probably better words for it, but you probably know what I mean. It's what makes them look wise. And I think it's a hint that the more enlightened you become, it's not like it's all roses and unicorn farts and fairy dust and shit. You have to actually anchor that with an equal understanding of the darkness, which is deeper and darker than you ever would have imagined, just like the light. Like it just keeps going. And the inextricably intertwined juxtaposition of light and darkness with themselves can be a bit difficult to process. Um, Comfort is king. I guess I've never been comfortable. Maybe that's why I don't understand. Man, this is probably phase 10,000. I mean, we have no idea what history has really been or how long it's been or what really happened. I don't think we can trust much of any of it. I mean, I'm certain that we can't. I want to just return for a second to this earlier theme of people seeming to really actually believe that the government is there to help them. I mean, a U.S. president once told them that there's nothing scarier than someone saying that they're from the government and they're there to help. So when the government itself is telling you that you shouldn't trust the government, and then these people are still like, okay, here's a great one for you. Everyone seems to believe the government is corrupted, that it's bumbling, like idiotic, bureaucratic institutions that, you know, they're they can't make any decisions correctly. They're murderous sometimes. Like everyone agrees on this. And yet you would let these bumbling, out of touch, corrupt lunatics make all the most important decisions in your life, and you find comfort in that. You're invested in that. Yeah, I mean, or I know indigenous people here from various tribes, depending on what medicine you are. Yeah, I mean, I work with people in the medicine. People have a lot of different definitions about what shamans are, and for me, I would just define it as someone that has a genuine dialogue with the universe going on. Um, the problem is, it's very easy to convince yourself that that dialogue is happening, and you're really just dancing with the devil in the pale moonlight. And by that, I mean they're experiencing ego inflation. Um, so I do my best to check myself and make sure that there's a dialogue happening. There are ways, that's what this channel is partially about, like how to grow and keep yourself in check. And it really doesn't matter because the universe will keep you in check, whether you like it or not. I mean, this, it's always been really easy for me to just kind of make whatever I want happen. In the last few years, powerlessness is something that I've sort of had to come to terms with, and in a way that's healthy. You have to make it in a way that's healthy, right? So um, it's like you have to relate to it without letting it make you feel small when circumstances uh, outweigh your strength and evade your mobility, so that there are times when you're sort of powerless, and I guess that's where some place, one of the places of refuge for us to take solace from all this is that it seems like even the stupidest shit has some kind of purpose in the universe, and that would apply to our experiences as well. And even senseless tragedy can be constrained to your purposes, as a magician would constrain a demon. It's really what that was always about. The issue that I guess is bothering me at the moment is how can I constrain the fear of others? And that's really what we have to find a way to do. Decisions made out of fear are always wrong, and decisions made out of love are always correct. And we all have our romantic side, and it's nice to think the best of people. But I think, at least in a fair percentage of people, fear seems to win. Um, Only in the moment, you know. I'm sure when people act out of fear and harm is done, most of them feel bad about it later. Uh, but in the moment, as a knee-jerk reaction, it seems like Fear wins much of the time, too much of the time. It lowers IQ. So, we have a lot of very scared people that are much dumber than they were 2 or 3 years ago to contend with. And we were already not, the shiniest light in the box, the earth, I mean. Yep, I don't know. Is anybody talking to me? It's the first time I've smoked pot in a year or so. I'm sure I'm rambling like a lunatic. Well, see, I don't think that's really love, though. I think that's just when people do horrible things out of love, they just have toxic toxic personality disorders that cause them to do insane things that have some twisted relationship with love. But um, well, it's I don't know about becoming a shaman, Rob, because my I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to do that. Um, but I question as to whether or not that's something that people can just do. And I know that that has a hint of solipsism and pomposity or something. Um, if I'm going to apply that title to myself and then say that kind of thing, but it's not really that. It's more about, just in my experience, based on my observation. Um, it's something that happens to people more than it's something that they pursue and choose. And for example, these schools that have opened up where they're supposed to, like, you apprentice with a shaman for 3 years and then you're a shaman, that's not real. Um, it just doesn't work that way. It's not about banging pots together and having a certain, like, method of whistling or whatever. Like it's not about specific, you know what I mean? It's not like a religion where you just learn rituals and then you know what I mean? It's um, and it usually involves like a total breakdown of the psyche of a person. It's a process that I think happens organically, and so you can't really just teach people. And in my experience, this thing that I would consider the shamanic aspect of my existence is an almost un it's not even really deliberate, um, and it's just sort of a communication with life that happens on more subtle levels than normal. So I mean, I'm not trying to discourage anything. I'm just saying that I don't know if if you can just do that. Um, but then again, we're all probably deeply traumatized enough to have the restructuring of the psyche thing become necessary. You know what I mean? It's because there has to be space, right? It's like a jigsaw puzzle. It comes apart, and then there's space for a new order to sort of configure itself. All things have to break down before they can come back together. This is why a phoenix burns. This is why societies, crumble and then new ones grow in their place. There's always, I mean, there's like some like gap between Rome and the civilizations that followed it. Everything burned to the ground. The old hierarchy vanished. The civilization basically collapsed. So that another one could rise in its place. And so, that's the kind of thought that I have when like Rogan says that he's thinks maybe it's too late to turn it around. What's going on, Christ bearer, bright ruler? That's interesting. Interesting name. Well, James, no, you have nothing but a series of choices. I mean, what you have to do, I think, is choose an orientation, a general orientation, and then that has to be consistent. There's this Tool song where Maynard sings, "We must define the ego before it's far too late." And I've had this thought before, so it's how I understood the lyric. Maybe I have it wrong, but um, that we have to define our ego and have a very clear consciousness of what we are and what our essential essence is, in order to maintain our trajectory from lifetime to lifetime. And I've actually heard a few strangers kind of reference this, I think, um, just speaking about, I don't know where the belief came from, but the Native Americans that we had the rituals with in South America, in New Mexico, I mean, the theme of which was star tribes. I said something that made it seem as though I didn't have the clearest picture of myself, and one of them said, "Do you want to be destroyed at the end of time?" Uh, completely. It wasn't just destroyed though. Like something about coming apart. I wish I could remember the word that he used because it was much better. But you get what I mean. That there can be this dissolution if we don't develop a clear sense of self and also maintain, a very high state of consciousness and very consistent awareness and mindfulness, during this life. Um, so sure, you have dials, you have like compasses, and the little compasses, and then another little compass, and another little compass, and those are all the levels of decision that you can filter through. The one at the very bottom is your fundamental switch. Are you of the light or of the darkness? So, that's it's another reason I think why it's so important that we develop better self-knowledge habits. Um, self-knowledge should be a one of the cornerstones of our existence. And I know there are plenty of people that are aware of that, but our mainstream society, I think, has become so threatening, in large part because people don't have any sense of purpose. They don't have a very well-defined sense of self. And for me, I think that well-defined sense of self has always just given me a sort of compass. I know that my general orientation is good. I'm going to try to help as long as it doesn't hurt me. And there's kind of this intuitive knowledge that's just better, and it works. Um, I see the utility in being much greedier. I think sometimes I think maybe I should be, but I think really what we all have to learn is that there's really no way to make society work. Uh, and I have to break character here in order to quote Jesus, and it's the only time I will ever do that. But his one teaching that you have to love your neighbor as you love yourself, until people actually do that. And it's got to be more or less unanimous from the beginning, which is the hard part, right? You got to get everyone on this weird page, and convince them to actually commit. But it's true that until people understand that that's not just some like quaint shit that you say to your kids at Sunday school or whatever, it's it's actually like a command almost from the universe. Like it's not really an option. Um, it's actually obligatory, and it's not even real. Which is because you are one soul divided for the sake of union, one soul divided that union may come. Um, we have exploded into billions of little fragments, and the same force that draws everything else in the universe is drawing it all back together, slowly but surely. And so it's sort of sadistic, sadomasochist to um, not love your neighbor as yourself. It took me a long time to even understand how superficial people were because I've always been very sincere and I didn't understand about social masks and uh, what really being polite is and how far some people take it. Like there are people down south that can like purr at you almost, and they are so warm and just it's so believable, but they will stab you, literally kill you when you turn your back to them and do terrible things to your corpse probably. I mean, I've actually met people like that down there. Um, and man, talk about scary when you realize, because you don't know at first. But anyways, I mean, it's not really it's an extreme version of what is actually normal in our society. But I didn't know that for a long time. I think when it really hit me, I was having a Zoom call with my stepfather, and I had no idea that he was what he really thought, I guess. And he didn't realize the camera had turned off, and he went from smiling, friendly, sincere. I thought to like the whole expression just as soon as he thought the camera went off was just gone, and he looked like a wet cat like instantly, and he said a bunch of really mean shit that he thought I couldn't hear. And you know I think that was like the first real inclination that I got that like, wow, these people, like, you just don't know what the fuck they're thinking. They might have like super warm smiles and everyone's nice, and don't even like most people you can detect, a lot of people anyways, you can detect if there's any like real malice or if they're, I don't know, but still, man, our society is deceptive as hell. Um, and it's normal, it's like, right on. Um, I'm not like that. And there's a lot of other things I think I didn't realize until the last like 2 years, just about how our society really is. And you hear things by spoken or written by people like Aldous Huxley saying that the a person that is normal in our culture is profoundly mentally ill. You think he's being kind of facetious or exaggerating or something, but I mean, I don't think that, but I thought maybe I was just you know, just really hard on people or something. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's not like Huxley just opened my eyes to that or something, but um, I think that even a lot of us that, including myself, that have at least seen the Matrix. Um, we don't really. It's hard to believe how out of touch with themselves and reality, and the extent to which the average person in our society is almost an automaton. And we do have remedies. We certainly do. And people are finding those remedies. But then they restricted everyone's travel and made people scared of each other. And, you have to stay 6 feet. I mean, you guys, the state our culture was in, our entire global catastrophe, it could not tolerate any more dehumanizing of people. None. None. Okay? So to turn that up, even if it's going to save a bunch of lives, relative to COVID only, that's the thing you have to remember about that. Sure, these things will save lives, but only relative to COVID. Overall, the things that we're doing to deal with COVID will ultimately cause way more suffering than COVID. Even WHO has said that. But beyond the senselessness of it, our society literally could not handle any more disconnection, any more depersonalization. And now look at the polarization. Yeah, I just found out today that your the algorithm for your different social media accounts, and it seems like the whole thing knows what Google, right? I mean, it knows what you're doing in all of them, I think. Everything is custom tailored to everything else. Yeah, the algorithm is reading the whole thing. So, but it actually, it's rage engagement. They're intentionally feeding you stuff that will make you combative because that is how you engage people's attention. Again, appealing to those Paleolithic emotions. And so the effect also is that not only are you fucked with, people are polarized because you're convincing them to argue about shit. And a lot of people think it's by design, but you can actually look at the code, and you can see that there are actually just uh, maximizing for views. It's not actually that they're really actually trying to cause a problem. But at the same time, Facebook has acknowledged that they are aware that their platform does this. So, interestingly, though, that's another secret, I guess, of shamans and magicians. And, conspiracy theories aside, there's absolute certainty that Freemasons are magicians. Uh, that's definitely what it is. And there are Freemasons in very high places. So it does appear that whoever is really in charge actually understands the fundamentals of magic, and that's where all this Luciferian paranoia comes from. I can tell you also with certainty, it's actually much weirder than that kind of good and evil dichotomy that people try to imagine. But the magician doesn't create circumstances that aren't there. You can't do that because the universe is just a confluence of natural laws. But it does seem that there's a certain consciousness that a person can develop. And a person in this state of mind tends to find themselves in very improbably convenient circumstances. So, for example, the elite turning Facebook to their advantage, even though it's only a circumstance in their universe, is really how that kind of thing works. The real magic is mostly about understanding natural law and natural systems than any kind of hocus pocus. It's like it's there and it's real, that type of magic. But it's just like everything else in the universe. It's not what people think it is. It's one of the reasons so few people can see it. You know, the parameters of most people's perception is all of people's perception. But the blinder people, their parameters are more narrow. But you're not going to learn what you don't want to know. And you can definitely set limits to what you're able to perceive subconsciously. People do this, trauma victims like my mom do this remarkably well, selective perception and selective memory. We even have the ability to reconfigure memory. And that's crazy because you would literally never know if you had reconfigured your memories. It's not, you can't. And I'm not talking about having a foggy memory. I'm telling you that we know that we can actually reconfigure our memories. So, knowing deep down inside that we can't trust our perception is probably one of the reasons that people instinctively keep their parameters narrow. You know, I mean, I know that I resent normal people for that, but I also understand that there's a lot of things they're much better at than I am because they're, it serves a purpose to have those narrow parameters and remain in this pragmatic state. Thing is, if you overdo it, you get eaten by dragons. Basically, selective perception has put us in quite a vulnerable position. When we think about the kind of people that have power around the planet in the Middle East, ISIS doesn't really sound like I mean, I don't even want to talk about the stuff they do on a regular basis. And then, we know that we have like American politicians that have nuked cities, dropped nukes on cities of non-combatants. And, there was Nazi Germany and stuff. And so, as long as the existence of these super powerful entities with armies and bombs, as long as they continue to exist, whether we allow it to fall within the spectrum of the immediate awareness or not, we're always dealing with the fact that those kind of situations are imminent. In the same way that you can use the Fibonacci sequence to predict the behavior of a stock or a cryptocurrency, you can do that with history too. You can do it with anything. It's the same fucking pattern in everything. So if you can do it in one system, you can do it in any system in some fashion. 10,000 things, one blueprint somehow. So we live with that all the time. And it's not just those that are aware of it, because the thing about the normal brain, I guess, the normal brain, the unactivated, the non-psychedelic brain. I don't know what the fuck to call it, but just because the two hemispheres of your brain are not communicating, uh, the difference between us and them is that everything's communicating. Uh, their other brain is still there though, and so all these things that we know and are able to discuss, they know too. They're just choosing to, you know, use selective perception to uh, engineer their perception to be whatever they can live with. But they're still dealing with that knowledge all the time. So the exacerbation, I guess, of social unrest can only agitate further after it's reached a certain point. And I think that, you know, I'm not sure if you guys are hip to this, but it sounds like war with Russia and the United States is all but formally declared. War with China seems pretty likely. I remember last year I was talking about this on Facebook and people got mad and called me an idiot and they're like, oh, nobody wants that fucking war and all this crap. And now look at this. I mean, the Chinese politician actually did make some comment about it to the media like 6 months ago or something. You know, it's like William Tell with the bow and we have the apple on our head and there's this old Grateful Dead song where they say, you know, William Tell has stretched its bow till it won't stretch no furthermore, and all this may require a change that hasn't come before. The 11 is a good one, but you know, that last bit of the line of all this may require a change that hasn't come before. It certainly does. Certainly does. It's interesting too. I mean, what would the story be without an antagonist? It takes a lot of pressure to create a diamond. Um, and it's a tesseract, so every plot twist, it folds like a contortionist. And, you know, extremely improbable miracles have happened every nanosecond for at least a few billion years. So there's that. I mean, it's true. Like people, you know, if people oftentimes won't like reach their highest. You know, I did this to myself for sure. I think that's what it's really meant about. You know, everyone having so much more potential than they express. Sort of um, self-limiting beliefs. You know, like that miracles don't happen when there's literally a few 100,000 every nanosecond in the entirety of time and space, right? I mean, so that means the odds are much more in favor of extremely improbable, miraculous coincidences than not, I guess. Um, I don't even know if the best of us are really sure whether synchronicities mean anything or not. – There's so much energy and information and so many relationships generated by that that in a sea of that much just potential, highly improbable coincidences are going to be really common just because of the sheer number of juxtapositions and intersections. I think that's how that works. So, we shouldn't limit ourselves, and even when we're facing a global catastrophe of, we're precariously perched on a precipice. No matter what it looks like, something that you never thought could even be possible. It's like if it's like you didn't expect it because it was beyond your conception, your ability to conceive of it. Otherwise, you would have thought of it because you're smart. But that is how it is, and it's accelerating too. It's kind of scary. It's kind of weird, the metaverse thing, and we were talking about Facebook and how the algorithm is designed to, what did I call it? Rage engage. Yeah. So because it'll maximize your engagement. That guy wants to put everyone in goggles and let that polarizing influence become 90% of that person's reality. I actually heard that estimate from one of those guys. I think he said people could spend as much as 90% of their time in the metaverse, or waking time. So basically only coming out of it to, like, I don't know what, shower and sleep. Well, no, 90% of your waking hours. Yeah, but I mean, they're talking about going to work in there, going to the club in there, going to concerts in there, having sex with porn stars, because there will be tools that you'll be able to feel stuff too. And that's cool, man. I mean, I'm all about moving technology forward, but I don't know if like physically moving into the rage engage algorithm, polarizing already people that can't stand together. They're supposed to maintain 6 feet of distance from the masked stranger. And now that they're talking about, people are getting interviews with people on the street, people are answering in polls that they would be okay with unvaccinated people being put into camps, that there's going to be a corresponding paranoid reaction, and very much rightly so, from the people that see that happening and don't like it. So we're going to go from that into, like, physically living in the rage engage algorithms, like, domain. This doesn't sound like a solution to a populace that is already dehumanized and detached, terrified of each other, paranoid. And what's going to happen when those people that spend, like, even half of their fucking time in their porn weirdness and God only knows what. I mean, it's going to be whatever you can imagine. People that have grown up like that, and then they do go out and try to engage with society sometimes, like, it's not a tenable position to want to challenge technology in our society either. Like for me, it's like, people could see me saying this and like, oh, whatever conspiracy theorist boomer or whatever, I'm not a boomer, I guess, but you know what I mean? That's what they would say anyways. That doesn't make me wrong. And in this case, I'm pretty sure that this it's an idea that has potential in an enlightened society, but we have to take care of the society before we can allow them to move into their imagination. Because it has to be a healthy place before that would be safe. That's why there are these like New Age legends, I guess. But one of the things that's always gone around is that Terence McKenna, I think, might have believed something to this extent, even um, that when we go to 5D reality, we'll be able to live in our imaginations, basically, but it's not really quite your imagination. It's like the metaverse, only organic, and I guess energy based, I would imagine. And so whatever you imagine is just there because it's like a realm of pure consciousness. Much things happen much more quickly in that kind of subtle atmosphere than in the material realm. And so rather than manifesting things slowly and awkwardly, it happens right away. And so if you have fear in your heart or hatred or anything, you can't move on to these higher realms because and it seems fair that way too. Like, it's not that anybody's trying to stop you. It's just, you just can't do it until you get to a point where you can control what you're manifesting. And, if you think about it, that kind of spiritual belief is totally healthy because whether it's true or not, that place exists, it's not going to hurt you to sort of accept its dictum that you that you do your best to live without fear and to make your decisions from a place of love. And really fear is it's like an interference pattern. It really is one of the most interesting periods of um, I don't know what to call it really. Initiation process, I guess. Or these like 7 nights that I learned a different lesson about controlling fear every night for a week. And by the time it was over, I was pretty good at it. I noticed that looking back that over the years, this is why you have to maintain your practice and you have to be mindful all the time because you can reach very, very lofty places and places of power and then you can just fall like and it's real. Um, but if you're not paying attention or you're not paying attention enough, these kind of states have to really be maintained vigilantly. Really gotta fucking pay attention. Don't blink. But it actually is true, I think, that if you can completely, what is the word when you chase a demon out? Um, Exercise fear. Whatever you would have been afraid of is not coming anywhere near you. The universe really is no different than like a petri dish with various chemicals that are interactive. The laws are the same and just as exacting. And that's what that kind of stuff is. it's as above, so below has a lot of levels, I think, of meaning, because it really shows itself in expressions of natural law just as much as any kind of like metaphysical idea. Of course, physicists hate it when you make the parallels between like subatomic particles and planets and stars, or uh, it's kind of analogies of like a universe people make a lot. But I don't think it's wrong. Exactly. What they don't understand is that it's as above, so below, but it's like in another fashion. Um, I don't know if I explained that as well as I would like, but Keter is in Malkut, and Malkut is in Keter, but after another fashion. A post-rapture society. I mean, I don't know what that means, man. I think the thing that I struggle with the most is that I think that there's well, it was like antinomies are a law. I mean, it's a not a law, but a fixed condition like of our universe, that it is created, maintained, driven by the interplay of antinomies, which means that it's never gonna just turn into a bliss ball. It can't. That's not even the point. It's just nice to think that it's the point. But if you really, just look all throughout history, all around you now, you will understand that there's a perfect balance of equal and opposite forces. That's always going to be the case, unless we move into like 5D hyperspace or something. It's just a condition of it, man. You know, way too many scared motherfuckers out there right now. They get scared, they get dumb. They get dumb, they get crazy. And then I heard this Chinese politician. I don't remember his title. I mean, I only know he was a Chinese politician because it was a video about China, and he was wearing some shit that obviously was ranking military. Um, but he was asked, wouldn't war with the United States and China, that wouldn't that be like the end of the world or something to that effect? The reporter asked, and the guy said, take your absolute worst ideas and imaginings of what World War III could possibly be like, and then make it 10 times worse than that, and then it's much worse than that. It would be much worse than, it's like, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. People ask why too. I think there is a why to it. I don't think that we really, it's almost a deterministic thing it is a deterministic thing to say, totally, that um, what physicists tell us is that the universe is energy basically canceling itself out. And so when things like wars happen, it's really just energy doing something. And what we see is our consciousness interpreting the energy doing the thing. But I think that the universe does exactly what it's supposed to be doing and what it has to do. There is no, you know what I mean? It's exactly as it should be somehow. And if it's true that we are an eternal consciousness, and I'm increasingly convinced of that, I mean, you can't really be convinced. Anybody that's going to be really honest has to admit that. You know, whatever your subjective beliefs are, they're not fixed. They're not certain. I don't care who you are. Even the most enlightened being possible couldn't really be sure. But you know, that's what we have to live with. But it could always be just imagination or wish demons. But it seems, you know, likely enough that consciousness is somehow an all-pervasive. It's like the fourth force. You know, they have like the three forces, um, the fields of physics, and I think that consciousness is somehow produced by the interaction of those fields. So it is itself a field, and our singular perspective is not illusory, um, but that's a temporal designation that will pass. You will you'll rejoin the collective universal mind at some point, or at every death, or you know, I feel pretty certain that the universe has like layers of subtle intelligence that are manifest in every part of it. Yeah, it's really getting late. So, I mean, well, that was kind of fun, I guess. You know, talk about that stuff. My brain is feels overused. You know, like a worn out tire or something. um, yeah. So, anyways, I'm gonna go to sleep. Hit the like button, please. Good night.